And let's keep it going for Kristen. Come on. She's absolutely amazing. And keep it going for you because you're here. You showed up today. And one last applause for the city of Rome. This place is absolutely amazing. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Why does this guy have the exact same hairstyle as the violinist? It's true, we go to the same barber. No, I want to talk to you today about the future of artificial intelligence, how artificial intelligence is going to look like in 7 years. And one of the things we know about already is that 9 out of 10 companies see artificial intelligence as a key competing edge that they can have in the future. And we also know that the workforce of artificial intelligence professionals is going to boom. It's going to continue to boom. And yet, there is a serious gender gap when it comes to the people who are designing and creating these technologies. My name is Anthony. I am, as Kristen said, a computer programmer turned opera singer turned professor and then entrepreneur. So I get to do this for a living now. And the reason why I think this is such an important issue is because we're continually facing the fact, the cold, hard reality, that artificial intelligence is only being created for a narrow segment of the population. Typically, it works really well for people like me. But you know who it doesn't work very well? Are the women who face sexist stereotypes in their careers as engineers. It also doesn't work well for people who are looking for a job who may have a disability or may have underrepresented race or ethnicity. It also works very poorly for people who have darker skin colors and can actually be seriously dangerous when it comes to issues of self-driving vehicles. And if you've ever had a home speaker not respond to you, if you've ever had your Alexa or your Google Home just not quite get what you're trying to tell it, we can chalk that up to the serious gender bias and the racial bias that is inherent in these systems. And of course, we face a real issue when it comes to facial recognition, privacy, and safety, and this particularly hits the transgender community in a very real and significant way. Now, I think we all kind of have more or less the same agreement that artificial intelligence is a key technology for the future. And I think most of us might also agree that this future can be very bright using these systems to empower people around the world. And I think we also agree that these systems can help us achieve equality if they're utilized in the right ways. What I think we're missing is that it's not just about that gender gap when it comes to the design and development of these systems. It's also about the culture where these teams are working. It's about the culture of the working environment. Now, if we can manage to create artificial intelligence systems that work for everyone equally, then that will help us minimize the risk that we roll out these systems that are only available for a small segment of the population. And it'll help us maintain the opportunities that we see for AI's future. And it'll also help us maximize whatever opportunities there are for using AI to promote equality. Now, some of you might be sitting there thinking, Anthony, yeah, that all sounds great, fine, but this is old hat. We know this. And besides, AI is just a buzzword. And you know what? You're absolutely right. There is no big headline news here. In fact, the problems we face with artificial intelligence are the same issues. The working culture is the same issues that we've been facing for decades, and we continue to face now. So today I'm going to talk you through one of my sins and wins of inclusivity. And it all starts in my office that I have at my university. And so I have one of these fancy professor offices, and I have a nice fancy chair. And I was sitting there one day, and one of my students pokes her head in the door and says, "Anthony, can I talk to you about your research?" And I say, "Yes, of course, sit down." So Kristen is going to be my student now. So she says, "Anthony, I found a hole in your research. I found a flaw in what you've done over the past 10 years. And I'm dumbfounded." Because she starts walking me through it, and I'm amazed. How did she see this glaring issue that I had no idea existed for the last 10 years? And I'm speechless. And she's sitting there going into detail about all these issues that my research had created and the problems behind it. And I'm just really struggling to attend to what she's saying. And then outside of the window, there was a tram that was passing by, and there was a person crossing the street, and the tram honks, and it kind of snapped me out of my daze. And I look over at her, and I realize this student, Katie, she's a revolutionary. She wasn't satisfied with the status quo. She believed it was her job to come and right the wrongs that she saw in my work. And now I'm a professor. I'm very satisfied with the status quo. I work within the box in a very real way, and I'm advantaged because of the way the academia is structured. And I see it as my mission to create order out of chaos, the chaos that is society, put it in a nice little package of research and put it out to society. And she's telling me that what I've done is wrong. And she's looking at me as I'm pushing back and as I'm resisting what she's saying and as I'm invalidating what she's saying. She's looking over at me like, what an arrogant asshole. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And I'm looking back at her thinking, what the audacity. Now, I don't know what it's like in your countries. I'm from the United States. And in the United States, students often call their professors doctor. So Dr. Anthony or Professor Anthony. In Norway, we have this issue where students call their professors by the first name. So when she said, "Anthony, you're wrong," it cut deep. It cut really deep. I don't know if you've had this experience where you've had a young person call you out for something you did wrong. Raise your hand if you've ever had a young person tell you an uncomfortable truth. Yeah. We've all kind of been there at some point or the other. So we're going back and forth, sparring against one another, and she's telling me what I did wrong, and I'm pushing back, and she's telling me again what I did wrong. And I hate every word that's coming out of her mouth, and I hate it because I knew she was right. And I didn't want to admit it because I'm the professor. She's just the student. She shouldn't be saying these things to me. And I didn't even understand why she was right. I knew on a superficial level that she was onto something, but I didn't get the depth of her understanding. And so I'm pushing back at every step, trying to tell her, no, you don't understand. No, I'm the authority. I'm the authority in this field. And she keeps pushing back against me, saying, no, I've found this flaw that you need to know about. And she's making me feel this big. She's making me feel insignificant as the time that Donald Trump spends writing a tweet. That level of insignificance. And I'm looking at her, and I'm realizing this is no ordinary student. This is Captain Marvel. Do we know this movie, Captain Marvel? It's about a superhero, a woman who gains superpowers, and her mentor, her teacher, tries to box her in and constrain her and oppress her and suppress her powers. And so I was faced with that same decision. I could either put her in her place. Katie, you don't know what you're talking about. Or I could listen. And what I didn't realize that day, the irony, is that she wasn't just trying to make me a better researcher. She was trying to create a more inclusive culture. And she was giving me that chance to create a more inclusive culture. Now, Katie made one fatal mistake that day. As a professor, I like my stuff in my office just so. It may look like chaos, but everything is in its place. And I have a huge wipe-off board, Massive wipe-off board. And on that wipe-off board, there is a tray. And in that tray, there are 3 markers. There's a black marker that I use only for writing text. So when I want to write something on the blackboard, on the whiteboard, I write it in the black marker. There's a blue marker, and I only ever use the blue marker when I'm drawing a graph or a diagram, something visual. And then there's a red marker. Now, the red marker is special, because the red marker is only used for making corrections or fixing something that I did wrong. Now, Katie tells me, Anthony, I'm going to show you what I mean. I'm going to draw it out on your wipe-off board graphically, and automatically the hair on the back of my neck starts to stand up because, oh my gosh, she's going to mess with my wipe-off board. And then she makes the fatal mistake of picking up the red marker to draw a graph. So clearly, she had no leg to stand on. It's the equivalent of having an argument with someone in the chat, in the comments section of a website, and you misspell a word, that fatal mistake. And then the person you're arguing with says, you misspelled a word, you clearly don't know what you're talking about, right? We eventually got over this mishap, and I learned a really important lesson that day. I learned that if I'm going to create a more inclusive working culture, that I need to shut up. I need to be able to create space for someone else to voice their ideas, to voice their opinions. And this is really important because the problem that we have with AI, the problems that I showed earlier, are not isolated. They're because of the way those design teams are working. And so we think that the cause is, or the solution is simply to create more diverse teams. And we've got good news on that front. There are more women than ever who are working in the AI field. The population is moving in the right direction. But it's going to do us no good if those working cultures are not inclusive, because there will continually be people that have a lot of the same backgrounds, look the same as me, that tend to shut down that other person who wants to have a voice. So I learned that really, really important lesson. And if I had done that, if I had put Katie down, tried to put her in her place, I would have achieved nothing. All I would have done is make myself feel good for maybe 5 seconds, but it would ruin any relationship, any connection that we had, and it would demean her and diminish her self-confidence. And that would just be wrong. And so that was a really important lesson for that day. It was a turning point in my career to learn more, understand more about how to create an inclusive working environment. And that opportunity helped me move into the next stage of my career. So Katie and I continued to collaborate for many, many years together. And one time she excitedly came into my office and she says, Anthony, I just found a program that the EU is sponsoring, and they want to finance networks to create more gender-inclusive innovation ecosystems. And I said, oh, that sounds really, really cool. Why don't we apply for it? So her and I worked together, write up this hundreds of pages of proposal, and we submit it to the EU. And of course, it's a really dramatic moment. You click the send button, and then nothing happens. It's just, thank you, right? That's it. So we wait weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and finally I get that message from the EU saying that we were awarded 1.7 million euro to advance gender inclusion in innovation. And I'm really, really proud to tell you that this year we launched he says dramatically as he uses the right button this time, over 17 new startups led by women in over 17 countries around the world. Everywhere from Uganda to Mozambique to Macau to Switzerland and Sweden, across the world, we were able to help elevate those voices, help create more inclusive cultures by showcasing the opportunities that we can take whenever we have a more diverse group of individuals. So I said at the beginning that we have a new opportunity here to think about AI in the future. So I believe that artificial intelligence, the future of AI, is actually inclusive AI. The work that we're going to do in this field is going to be inclusive. I want to teach you guys a little magic trick before I go. I'm going to wrap up here. And the magic trick is the sign language for shut up. So it's very simple. It's a very easy. Do we know the chef's kiss, the Italian gesture? Yeah, this one? Let's all do it so I know you know what I'm talking about. Yes, there we go. So the sign language for shut up is just open palm and then chef's kiss towards your mouth. One more time. Let's do it together. Open palm. Yep. And chef's kiss toward mouth. Well done. So now you know the sign language for shut up. So you have to promise me that you're going to go back to your teams. And if you're a leader, you will teach this to your teams. So that when you're in those meetings, and as the leader, you're taking up all the space in the room, and you see one of your team members looking at you a little bit like this, then you know it's time to shut up so that they don't shut down. You know, it's your time to shut up so that they don't shut down. And if you're one of those team members and you want to poke your boss a little bit, teach them that gesture so that they know it's their time to take a step back and create an opportunity for another person to have their voice heard. So what are we going to do when someone like me is hogging up all the space in the room? What do? Let's do it together. One last time. Yes.